It's actually a lot of kids my age that would love to play for the University of Carolina that actually like the old school coaches because they respect the old school coaches because of their resume. And that's how Mac Brown can literally get recruits just based on his resume. Players want to play for a coach that can get the best out of them and not only have a good chance of winning, but that can get them to the next level. Like I know several 5-star and 4-star athletes that I go to school with and talk to on a regular. And I always ask them, why are you always choosing a school like Alabama and Georgia when you're going to have to wait a couple of years to start versus going to a school like yeah, and they always say because those coaches they have a proven track record, not only can you win there, but they can get you to the next level. So Mac Brown, he has a good track record. He has had success over the past, and he's a guy that's able to develop players and get the best out of them. And that's why those players would like to play for Mac Brown. At least the 4 and 5-star players that I go to school with and talk to on a regular. That's what they always tell me. The 3-star guys, n- they're go to whichever school they feel is best for them. But the 4 and 5-star guys, they want to go to the best school that gives them the best chance to win. And when you win, you get NFL eyes on you. You can be a 6 round talent. You might not even be the most talented football player, but if you start and you go to a school that wins, you're going to get eyes on you and you're going to get looks. Versus going to a school that doesn't really have a proven coach that only has like a couple of winning seasons. You're not going to get a lot of eyes on you. That's why players are always so eager to go to these powerhouse schools. Now, Manny Diaz, this is a different story. Manny Diaz has to be successful with the Miami Hurricanes, and he has to be a good recruiter because think about it. Unlike these other schools like Alabama or Clemson, Miami is the hotbed for college football talent. Almost is a stat. Literally like 20. Exactly. So if you're in Miami, the thing with Mark Rick and Al Golden, they couldn't get the Miami guys. It was so much talented players that were slipping out of the cracks of Al Golden and Mark Rick, and they couldn't get those Miami guys. And if you're head coach in Miami, you have to be able to at least get at least 60% of those guys that are in Miami. Literally, like I don't care about the rest of Florida. The whole state of Florida is talented and stuff like that. But if you're in Miami, you're the most prevalent school in Miami. You better be able to get those guys. There's no reason why 4-star guys should be committed to a FIU and FAU. It's no reason. Those guys should be playing for the University of Miami. Now, I know everybody doesn't really want to go to a blue chip school like Miami, and everybody, they can go to other schools like that. But most of these recruits, no reason should those guys be going to a school like FIU. Yeah, like I understand like a few. That's what I'm saying. Like I understand a few of the players they might choose to go their own way and stuff, but most of the time, 60% of the time, those players are most likely going to be choosing schools like Texas and USC because just like what I was talking about with a coach like Mac Brown, and not just his track record, but the whole program's track record over the last couple of seasons. USC, other than the last previous season, they pretty much have been pretty solid for the most part, even though they haven't really been to any big championship games. They went to the Rose Bowl a few years ago, but they're the more dominant team in California, and that's why they get a lot of the California kids because they have a stronger tradition over the schools like Cal or UCLA, schools that haven't really won a lot. Yeah, and then Texas is a good example of that. When you look at Texas 24/7, all you see they get literally Texas gets almost every single 5-star and 4-star player that comes out of the whole state of Texas, literally. Maybe a few of them go to Texas Tech and TCU, but they're getting most of those 5 stars and 4 star guys. And that's what I'm expecting out of Miami when Manny Diaz is coaching there. I'm not expecting to get all those guys. And I know the
You're
competition is
competing with Alabama and Georgia.
exactly, but since you're in,
Now,
but you're in Miami though. You're in Miami. You're basically closer to all these recruits than all of these schools like Alabama and Clemson and Georgia like that. And you have more access than those guys because those schools like Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia, yeah, Florida is a pipeline for them, but they also have to recruit farther in the nation. Like these guys get guys from California and other states as well. But since Miami is closer to these talented recruits than most of those schools, we should be able to get a few more of those guys than what Mark Rick and Al Golden was. I'm not saying we have to snag all of them. I'm just saying, let's say it's 20 talented recruits. Not saying I'm just using this as an example. Let's say it's 20 talented recruits, 4 star and 5 star guys in the city of Miami or in South Florida. Miami should at least be able to get 7 or 6 of those guys.
not 95%, maybe like 75%.
Yeah, I'm not saying 90%. I'm just saying, like, if there's 20 talented players, 5 star and 4 star players, Miami should at least be able to get 6 or 7 of those guys. That
Well, and I'm not sure. Did you ever watch the U documentaries, the 30 for 30s, both of them?
oh yeah, how we fought. I watched the first one, but I watched both of them, but I can't really remember the second one. I know it was like some kind of scandal or something like that. I can't really remember. It's been a
Yeah, no, but you think that whole, the state of Miami thing that Snellenberger and like the people in the 80s did, you think that could work today for Miami, or it's harder to do it because Florida and Florida State are competitive? They couldn't do that. They could do that because Florida State and Florida weren't as prevalent in football back then. Like they weren't as good.
Give me an example of what they were doing in the 80s, because I can't really remember that. I can't really remember it.
They would wall off basically from Miami to Tampa. They would wall off that whole area. So most of the out of state, like Alabama or Georgia or something, would only recruit in the Panhandle. Miami would cover everything from Tampa to Miami, basically.
That
Like the side of the
Okay, I get it now. So basically, what you're asking is, since if Miami, basically, all right, I get what you're saying. I don't think that will work anymore because Miami kind of has fallen off. We haven't, other than 2017, we haven't really had any good seasons or any notable seasons other than Florida, who just,
consistency.
yeah, Florida has been more consistent. FSU, despite having a few down years, other than the 2 seasons they have been pretty consistent, and they won a championship more recently than what Miami has. And also, Florida has been pretty consistent the last couple of seasons, despite a couple of down years. So Miami has kind of been overrun by those guys, and Miami, for that to happen, Miami has to reestablish themselves in the state of Florida. Not just Miami, you got UCF in there as well. So for that to happen and be effective again, Miami will probably have to reestablish themselves as the dominant school in
Basically,
Florida.
like have 10-win seasons the next 10
Yep,
years.
and not only that, but beating these schools like Florida and FSU. Because remember when FSU was beating Miami for 6, 7 years in a row?
Yeah, we would be destroyed.
That's another thing that Miami has to do. This Florida game is not only big for Miami in terms of where we're going to be at as a team, but it's also big recruiting rods for the things that you just say. That game is going to reestablish who has control of Florida. And if Miami is able to sweep both Florida and the FSU this season, not only is that a win, but that's going to be a big win in recruiting. That I'm not saying that's going to show that we're the most dominant school in Florida, but it's just, a small indication that Miami
It's bad.
is on. I'm not going to say it's bad because last time I said it's bad, we got smacked by Pittsburgh, but it's on this way to being back.
Yeah, and honestly, what needs to happen as well is consistently, like, we're never going to beat out, for the 5-star recruits, realistically, I don't think we can beat out Georgia, Clemson. Like, we might get lucky with one, but we won't be able to beat out the 5-star recruits that come out of Miami. We won't be able to beat Georgia. Realistically, I don't think we can beat out Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, or something like that.
Well, here's the thing. Right now, it's still possible. We still have a chance to do that. It's just not, our success rate just isn't as high as what it used to be back in the 2000s and stuff like that. But we can still get some of these talented guys out of Miami. We're just not getting as many of them as we should be. We're probably getting about 2 or 3 of those guys, but we really should be having at least 4 or 5 of those guys since we're closer in the proximity. But I mean, out of a 10 chance, if we have to fight for a recruit with a school like Georgia and Alabama, we probably have a 3 out of 10 chance to winning that, maybe 4, just because we're closer. I'm not going to say like if we're in a recruiting battle for a recruit with Georgia and Florida and Alabama that we don't have a chance of winning, because we do. We actually, the offensive lineman that we got from
No, what people don't realize with some of these recruits, location doesn't matter. Just because they're far away from their families doesn't mean their families can't come over to or watch them on TV. Location sometimes doesn't matter for the top recruits, like in Florida, like the 5-star recruits, 5 and 4-star recruits. Location doesn't matter for them. Is what people don't realize.
So what you're asking is, could Miami still get those guys if we're competing with Georgia and Alabama, taking location out the mix?
Yeah, yeah.
I believe we could. It has to be recruits. If they're not going by location, here's the thing they're looking at. The 5 and 4 star guys I've talked to, one of them, Sean Wade. I was very well. We weren't really close, but we communicated every once in a while. Every time we seen each other in the hallway, or every time I seen him outside of Trinity or something like that.
Did you go to school with? Did you talk to Zaire? Dwayne Wade's son?
No,
He goes to Miami.
no, I don't live in. I'm talking about in Duval right now.
Okay.
Like the guys like Jeremiah Payton and guys like that.
Okay.
I've been to school with a couple of those guys, and I actually talked to a couple of those guys in middle school as well. And we still communicate on Instagram every once in a while. But before then, like when I used to ask those guys, like why they never chose to stay.
For another school or something like that, right?
He promised them stability.
Yeah, that's the same thing that happened with half the kids, some of the kids in 2019. That's why our class was so low in Miami. It's because half the kids were committed to specifically the coaches that Mark Richt hired. Even though Manny Diaz stayed back, it was hard for us to, get some of the recruits back.
Yeah. So like it's just a bunch of factors that goes in when the prospect isn't looking to stay in state. It goes by how much a program wins, because most of these guys that are coming in Florida that end up going to schools out of the state, these programs are basically Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Alabama. What all 4 of those schools have in common? They're all winners. They all have very good coaches, and they all have very good program traditions. And players want that, I guess.
And the main one is stability too.
Yep, they all have.
They constantly have coaches leave. They have coaches within the staff that they train to replace the coaches that leave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think Miami eventually is gonna have that, but we don't have it now with like with Alabama and Clemson. Eventually, Clemson, honestly, the coaches are not gonna stay there for 10 years. Do you think realistically Dabo's gonna stay there for the whole 10 years of that contract?
I think he is. Why wouldn't he's winning?
So you don't think realistically he's a coach that would go pro?
Now here's the thing about going pro. It's weird because a lot of these top. When's the last time a top college football coach? I'm talking about in that Nick Saban category or that Dabo Swinney category went to the
Jimmy
NFL.
Johnson.
Who?
Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy
But
Johnson.
but that was years ago. You rarely see one of the best coaches in college football go to the NFL.